Awaken Light Audio. Awaken your mind, ignite your light.
A man with no friends, how to overcome loneliness and find purpose. What happens to a man who wins every battle but has no one to celebrate with? What if loneliness doesn't scream? It just silently steals everything that makes life worth living. And what if the strength you've been trying to prove is actually found in letting someone in? There's a story not many men are brave enough to tell. The story of silence, of strength mistaken for isolation, of success built in solitude, only to find that at the top, the view is empty. This is that story. The story of the man with no friends and the journey back to connection, purpose, and healing. Chapter 1. The Silent Battle. When loneliness feels like strength, not all battles are fought out loud. He doesn't talk about it. He doesn't complain. He doesn't ask for help. But deep down, he knows. There's an emptiness, not loud, not dramatic, just constant, lingering, heavy, they say. Men should be strong, so he became strong, emotionless, focused, controlled. He worked hard. He leveled up. He became successful. But no one asked about the quiet. No one noticed that he stopped answering texts because there were no texts. No one asked why his weekends were always productive, because they never included people. No one saw that his confidence was carved out of isolation, and his independence was just loneliness in disguise. Loneliness isn't always crying at night. Sometimes it's just eating alone and pretending you prefer it. Sometimes it's telling yourself you're too busy for friends, when, deep down, you've just forgotten how to let people in. Sometimes it's convincing yourself that you don't need connection, because needing feels weak. But here's the truth no one told him. Real strength isn't isolation. It's connection without dependency. It's being seen, and not shrinking. He wore solitude like armor, but over time, even armor gets heavy. And one day, he looked around and realized he didn't have anyone to call. Not for help, not for celebration, not for celebration, not for anything, not because no one cared, but because he never let them. He didn't lose friends overnight. He simply stopped watering the soil. He confused quiet with peace and independence with self. And now, here he was, strong, accomplished, and completely alone. The first practice, sit with the silence. Today, ask yourself honestly, when was the last time you reached out without needing something? When was the last time you laughed with someone? Truly laughed. Who would notice if you went silent for a week? Let the discomfort speak, not to shame you, but to wake you, because awareness is always the first step back. Talk to yourself. I am not broken for feeling lonely. I am not weak for craving connection, and I will no longer mistake silence for strength. Chapter 2. The Myth of Alpha. When masculinity means emotional starvation, being a lone wolf is not strength, it's starvation. He thought he had to be the alpha, the man who never complains, the man who never cries, the man who handles everything alone, because somewhere along the way he learned emotion is weakness, vulnerability is danger, connection makes you soft. So he locked it all away, his loneliness, his fear, his desire to be seen. Not as a machine, but as a man who feels. But here's the tragedy. When you cut yourself off from pain, you also cut yourself off from joy. When you armor up to avoid rejection, you also block acceptance. When you refuse to ask for help, you quietly build a prison around your own soul, and you call it strength. Masculinity, as it's been taught, is starving men of their humanity. We raise warriors, but we bury feelers. We say, man up, when what we really mean is, shut down. And so many men, brilliant, gifted, powerful, walk through life armored but empty. They're respected, admired, even feared, but not known. And that slowly kills them from the inside. You don't have to be the loudest in the room. You don't have to be the toughest in the gym. You don't have to carry it all alone to prove you're worthy, because true alpha energy, it doesn't dominate, it protects, it builds, it allows, it makes space for pain, and doesn't flinch. Second practice, rewrite. The definition today? Ask yourself, what beliefs about manhood have made you emotionally malnourished? Who taught you that silence was strength? What would it look like to be strong and soft, to be grounded and vulnerable? Write a new definition of masculinity, one that doesn't require emotional starvation to prove power. Remind yourself, I don't need to shrink to fit their version of strength. I don't need to suffer in silence to be a man. I was made to feel, and I'm still strong. Chapter 3. Relearning Connection. How to build meaningful friendships again. You weren't made to walk alone. He realized something strange. He knew how to build a business. He knew how to stay disciplined. He knew how to push through pain. But he didn't know how to make friends anymore. He had outgrown the party crowd. He didn't feel safe opening up. And honestly, he didn't even know where to start. They don't teach you how to reconnect. They don't tell you what to do when your friendships fade. They don't explain how to say, hey, I feel lonely. I want connection again. Can we build something real? So what do most people do? They scroll, they numb, they convince themselves they're fine. But inside, they're aching for one real conversation. One person who gets it. One moment that feels human again. Friendship as an adult isn't like it was in school. It's not instant. It's not convenient. It's not constant. It's intentional. It takes courage. It takes going first. Real connection doesn't always come to you. Sometimes you have to build it, slowly, bravely, awkwardly at first, but honestly, he learned to stop waiting too. Send the first message, to show up even when it felt vulnerable, to listen more, judge less, laugh again. He stopped performing, stopped curating, stopped pretending, and in return, he didn't get dozens of friends, but he built a few that mattered. Friends who saw him, not the version he projected, and for the first time in a long time, he felt human again. The next practice, take one step toward connection. Today, do one thing to reach out. Text someone just to say, you crossed my mind today. Invite someone for coffee or a walk with no agenda. Share something real, not curated, online or in conversation. It might feel small, it might feel weird, but it might also be the beginning of something real. Remember, I'm allowed to start again. Connection isn't a sign of weakness, it's a return to wholeness, and I'm ready to be seen as I am. Chapter 4. Purpose through pain. Using loneliness to build something meaningful. If you're going to hurt, don't waste the hurt. There came a point where he stopped asking, why am I so alone? And started asking, what can I build with this loneliness? Because pain, when ignored, becomes poison. But pain, when faced, becomes purpose. He realized something powerful. The same emptiness that haunted him could become the space where something new was born. He used to sit in silence and feel sorry for himself. Now, he sits in silence and listens to his thoughts, to what he never made time to hear. The loneliness, it became his classroom, his temple, his forge. You can let pain bury you, or you can let it build you. You can let loneliness hollow you out, or you can let it carve space for something deeper. Every emotion you feel has a message. Every ache has wisdom. Every ache has wisdom. Every silent evening alone is a chance to meet yourself fully. And from that place, you can create a new habit, a new rhythm, a new reason to rise each morning. Purpose isn't always found in passion. Sometimes it's found in pain, in the question, what can I create from this season that once crushed me? That's when your loneliness stops being your prison and starts becoming your power. He began to write again, to build again, to serve, to offer the lessons he learned through the ache. And in doing so, he became a man of depth, of clarity, of quiet, strength that doesn't need applause. Because it was earned in the dark. One more practice, create from the pain. Ask yourself, what is this loneliness teaching me? What am I finally making space for? What can I offer the world from this season of solitude? Then build something, anything, from it. A journal entry, a morning routine, a project that's been on your heart, or a message to someone who might need your story. Don't waste the ache. Let it mean something. Tell yourself, my loneliness is not my weakness. It's the soil where something deeper is growing, and I will rise, not in spite of it, but because of it. Chapter 5. The Courage to be Known. Vulnerability as a superpower. They can't love the real you if you keep hiding him for most of his life. He believed the lie. If they see the real me, they'll leave. If I open up, I'll get hurt. If I stay guarded, I'll stay safe. So he performed. He edited himself. He only showed what looked good, sounded strong, and kept him protected. But here's the truth. He eventually had to face they can't love the real you if you keep hiding him. Not lonely because you're unworthy. You're lonely because you've been unseen. Not for what you achieve, but for who you are. And when all you show the world is performance, you attract applause, not intimacy. When all you give is strength, you never get the chance to receive support. True connection begins where performance ends, and that takes courage. Vulnerability isn't weakness. It's a test of trust, not in others, but in yourself. It says, I believe I'm enough, even if they walk away. I trust that who I am, not just what I do, deserves to be seen. I'd rather be rejected for my truth than loved for my mask. And that kind of courage, it changes relationships, it changes identity, it changes lives. He started being honest with himself first. I'm not okay. I want connection. I don't want to do this alone anymore. And when he said it out loud, the shame started to fall away, because naming your pain is the first step to releasing it, and showing your truth is the only way to be fully loved. Another practice, show up as you are today. Be honest in one conversation. Not perfect, not polished, just real. Say what you mean. Ask for what you need. Speak without editing. You may feel nervous, you may fear judgment, but you'll also taste freedom, and you'll be one step closer to the connection your soul has been begging for. Talk to yourself. I will no longer hide to be accepted. I will no longer shrink to be liked. I'd rather be fully seen and deeply connected than endlessly praised and forever alone. Chapter 6. The Return to Self. Becoming your own best friend. The loneliness ends when you come home to you. He spent years looking outward for validation, for companionship, for someone to see him, because he had forgotten how to see himself. But one quiet night, after the noise had faded and the texts still didn't come, he asked a question he'd never dared to before. What if I stopped waiting for someone else to save me and started showing up for myself? That was the beginning. Not of a perfect life, not of endless happiness, but of something real, whole, unshakable. Loneliness is loudest when you've abandoned yourself, when you criticize instead of comfort, when you distract instead of listen, when you chase others because you've lost your own voice. But the truth is, you are with yourself more than anyone else. So ask yourself, are you a friend or an enemy to the person in your own mind? He started small, sitting with his thoughts instead of escaping them, speaking kindly to his reflection, even on hard days, forgiving himself for past mistakes instead of replaying them, being patient. When healing felt slow, and little by little, the silence became sacred, the solitude became peace, the aloneness became presence. He stopped needing constant noise, stopped measuring his worth by his circle, stopped begging for love he hadn't yet offered to himself, because the truth is, when you become your own best friend, You're never truly alone again. Next practice, make time for you today. Ask, what does my soul need from me right now? When was the last time I gave myself grace instead of guilt? How would I speak to a best friend? And can I offer the same to myself? Then do one kind thing for yourself, not as a reward, but as relationship building. With the most important person in your life, you remember that. I am not alone when I am with myself. I will show up, speak gently, and stand by me because I deserve love, not just from others, but from the soul who sees me most. Chapter 7. From Loneliness to Leadership. Using your journey to lift others, what broke you can now build someone else. He didn't go through all that pain just to survive. He went through it to lead. Not by being the loudest, but by becoming the most real. Because when you've been to the depths and you find your way back, you now carry something the world desperately needs: compassion, clarity, and credibility. You've been there. You understand. You're not speaking theory. You're sharing testimony. The man who used to hide his pain now holds space for others to process theirs. The one who once felt invisible now sees others who feel unseen. The one who begged for someone to check in now becomes the one who checks on others without being asked. That's the quiet leadership the world needs. Not charisma, not control, but presence. Loneliness taught him what connection truly means. Pain taught him to listen. Silence taught him to speak only what matters. And now, he doesn't chase impact, he embodies it. He shows others what it looks like to be broken, and rebuilds something even more beautiful. You don't need a platform to lead. You don't need a title. You don't need 100 followers. You just need one moment of honesty, one act of kindness, one conversation that says, "Hey, I've been where you are. You're not alone. You can make it out too." A new practice. Pass it on today. Use your journey to help someone. Message someone who's been quiet lately. Share a lesson you've learned through loneliness. Be the safe space you once wished for. It doesn't have to be dramatic. It just has to be real, because your scars, they don't make you broken. They make you believable. Tell yourself, I've walked through darkness. Not to be pitied, but so I could light the path for someone else. My healing is my leadership. My journey is my leadership. My journey is my offering, and I will not waste the wisdom pain has given me. Chapter 8. The Final Awakening. You were never truly alone. Loneliness wasn't a curse. It was a calling in the end. He saw it clearly. He wasn't broken. He wasn't invisible. He wasn't cursed. He was being called to slow down, to look inward, to listen, not to the world, but to himself. Loneliness wasn't punishment. It was a pause, a sacred space, stripped of noise, where he could finally hear the voice that had always been waiting. I'm still here. I've always been here. You are not alone, not when you have you, not when you're connected to something deeper. We live in a world obsessed with connection. Yet most people have never connected with themselves. We chase people, status, validation, all, to avoid sitting in a room with the one soul we're never meant to abandon, our own. But once you come home to yourself, you realize you don't need a crowd to feel complete. You don't need constant noise to feel seen. You don't need to be surrounded to be strong. He found stillness. He found peace. He found his voice. And from that place of rootedness, he began to reconnect with the world, not from desperation, but from wholeness. Because when you know who you are, when you love who you've become, and start radiating. The last practice. Sit with your enoughness right now. Pause. Place your hand over your heart. Close your eyes and simply repeat, I am enough. I am not alone. I am not broken. I am becoming. Let that settle. Let it land. You've come too far to forget the power of where you've been. Remind yourself, I thought loneliness would break me, but it woke me. It brought me back to me, and from this place I rise, And when people ask, where have you been, you'll smile and say, I was becoming the man I needed, so I could become the man the world needs.
Thank you for spending this moment with Awaken Light Audio. If something today touched your heart or opened your mind, don't keep it to yourself. Share your thoughts in the comments. What spoke to you most? Tell us about your journey, your questions. Send it their way, because light grows when it's shared. Until next time, stay present, stay awakened, and keep becoming who you're meant to be.